And welcome back to Girl Talk. We're filming today at Bella Domicile, where later on we'll talk about home improvement projects and how to get started. That can be the toughest part sometimes. But right now, when your marriage ends, your role as a parent doesn't. It never does. And getting through the holidays can be a tough or challenging situation. Joining us today is Richard Staley. He's an attorney with Team Staley Legal Services right here in Madison. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
So this time of year, as the holidays are in full swing, what do you see as a lawyer as issues and commonly?
Well, around this time of year, with all of the travel, celebrations, family gatherings, seeing friends, that sort of thing, we see an increase in ordinance violations, speeding tickets, traffic tickets, and unfortunately, when you put some of those combustible elements together, we also see alcohol-related issues, an increase in disorderly conduct, DUI charges, that sort of thing.
Interesting.
Now, we know you also practice family law, correct? So what do you see in regards to that, I guess, lately around the holiday times?
Well, the question I've been getting most often in my office is really in relation to custody and placement of children when parents don't live together. Especially as, we have these holidays in November, December, January, all kind of right, boom, boom, boom. That does become a really tense point for a lot of families.
Right.
I can imagine. And talk to us a little bit about, this is a tough topic, but it is an important one. So share with us what legal custody means. And maybe, touch on the holidays too. You mentioned that can maybe be a time where it gets challenging with custody.
Oh, most definitely. Legal custody is the right of one parent or another to make what are called major life decisions on behalf of a minor child. These are things like medical care, what schools to enroll in, whether or not to participate in football or other inherently dangerous extracurriculars, and particularly relevant to this time of year, what religious observations to participate in.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
So what you're saying is maybe typically one parent would take legal custody where they would have the opportunity to make some of those big decisions for the children.
Well, in Wisconsin, there are three options. There's sole custody, which is exactly that situation where you have one parent making the decisions. Joint legal custody, where each parent has that equal share in the decision-making power. And then what's called joint legal custody with an impasse provision, which is essentially just a tiebreaker mechanism that's built into the agreement.
Okay, I see.
I was just wondering that very thing, because if you have joint, that seems like equal, but then what do you do when you disagree? So it sounds like that last option is the way to go with the impasse, so to speak.
There are a lot of options available. A lot of times it's easiest just to have open communication and cooperation amongst the parents, and agreeing to things ahead of time is one way to alleviate most of these issues.
Right.
So it comes back to communication.
Yeah.
How is custody different than physical placement? I've heard those terms before.
Physical placement, sometimes people will think of that as visitation or physical custody, but physical placement is the term that we like to use in the law. And it's exactly what it sounds like. It's where the child will physically be placed for a period of time. Now, the big difference that comes in, where to spend Christmas Eve versus Christmas Day, as an example, that's an issue of placement, which parent is exercising placement on a particular day. But the decision to take a minor child out of the country for winter break, encompassing all of those days, that is actually a custody decision. So you can see where some of those tensions come in right off the bat.
Absolutely.
So how are all of these different things decided? Because I'm guessing that's probably the most difficult part of the process.
Well, in a contested divorce or a contested custody issue, a lot of times if the parties can't agree, that goes to a judge or a court commissioner to make these type of decisions. But again, going back to the communication point, one of the easiest ways is by a custody agreement between the parties where they can discuss these issues, set a holiday schedule, that sort of thing, and kind of have a plan in place in writing that everyone can refer to so that most of these issues don't come up, and when they do, communication and cooperation can help alleviate them.
Exactly.
And someone like you.
There's a lot to know, and real quick before we go, just if folks at home are having these kinds of issues, it's a lot to navigate through. Obviously, you're our expert here. What's the best way to get in touch with you?
Well, my phone or website are great options. Email is always a great option too.
Okay.
All right. So again, this is Richard Staley. He's with Team Staley Legal Services in Madison. And we'll be back with more Girl Talk right after this.